Hi guys, this is Morgan. We're going to go over the major suppliers for gypsum. So I have these in the report along with pictures of their logos, so you can see that. The first major supplier is United States Gypsum, the Georgia Pacific Gypsum, Nationals Gypsum, Certainteed, American Gypsum, and for major suppliers when it comes to plaster is also Georgia Pacific Gypsum. They sell plaster as well, along with National Gypsum, USG, and Flexi Wall Systems. So for environmental, gypsum board is a very green building product for several reasons. One, gypsum, the main ingredient in gypsum board, is a very abundant material. The paper backings on either side of the board are almost always completely recycled. There's also a type of synthetic gypsum made from gases in fossil-fueled power plants. So what they do is they take the gases from fossil-fueled power plants and they incorporate that in gypsum. It is also possible to recycle what is left over gypsum board after projects, but because gypsum is so abundant, recycling is not usually done. However, the Gypsum Recycling International is a company that is dedicated to providing a system that benefits all parties involved in recycling. They handle the recycling process from the time of collection to the actual recycling and change from gypsum powder, which then can be reused in gypsum wallboard. So you can find all of that in the report. Now for plaster, when it comes to it being environmentally friendly, natural clay plaster is used. Natural clay plaster is a natural plaster that is created by composing rocks and minerals mixed with sand, water to create a workable material for plastering. It is more of an environmentally friendly choice than traditional gypsum plaster. The surface finish is typically matte, although some polished surface finishes can be created. Smooth or rough textures can also be created when drying. Now for the quality of product, when it comes to gypsum board comes in a few different products. First there's regular gypsum board, then there's fire resistant board that has materials made that are fire resistant, as well as a gypsum containing 21% water to reduce chances of fire ignition. There's also water resistant board with a core that is water resistant and the paper used is water repellent. When it comes to the quality, ASTM has a specified finish levels for gypsum board, as well as Gypsum Association, GA. The two specifications are ASTM C40 standard specification for application and finishings of gypsum board, and the GA 214. The requirements from the ASTM C40 specifications are divided into level 0 to level 5. Each level elaborates the specification for different varieties and stages of construction. So basically, there are these two tests, and there's about 6 different levels, and depending on which level the gypsum board falls into tells you the quality of the product. So level 0 is the temporary construction. Level 1 is attics or service corridors. Level 2 gypsum is used in storage areas such as garages and warehouses. And level 3 are services that receive a heavy patterned stucco type finish. Level 4 gypsum is for walls and ceilings that will be finished with a flat paint or wall covering, and that is most commonly used. And in level 5, the highest level for areas receiving glossy paint or long lengths of wall that will be brightly lit. The use of gypsum veneer plaster would also fall into this level. Now, when it comes to the quality and variety of products for plaster, we have plaster is a very durable material because it is strong and fire resistant. It is used more in older homes, but because it sags and crumbles over time, it is commonly being replaced with gypsum board. Plaster applications, like most material installations, should be done by a professional. When it comes to the composition of plaster products, the two main components to decide between are lime and gypsum plasters. Lime plaster can be found in many historical contexts. In rehabilitation and restoration projects, one should rely on the plaster's judgment about whether to use lime or gypsum plaster. In general, gypsum plaster is the material plasters use today. Now the last part we're going to go over about plaster is the scratch, brown, and finish, and lath. So a scratch coat is the first coat of plaster in a multi-coat system. The wet plaster is scratched with a trowel or a comb to provide a rough surface to give tooth for the next layer of plaster to adhere to. Then for brown coat is a base coat plaster in a multi-coat system, sometimes applied over the scratch coat in a 3-coat application, or the base before a top coat of plaster. The next is the finish coat, and this is the final coat in a plaster system, which would be like a veneer plaster, lime or gauging plaster, or lime and sand plaster, depending on the system. And last but not least, lath, a substrate material for plaster. Wood or wire or gypsum coreboard it provides the base for plaster to adhere to either through use of keys or other mechanical bonds. So if you have any questions or you want to go into further detail, just look at the report. It explains a lot, and it goes over the varieties and the qualities and fire codes and etc. So thank you for listening.